Nation's toughest anti-bullying law takes effect in New Jersey today.
Yeah, the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act was inspired by the tragic death of the Rutgers freshman Tyler Clementi. You may remember this. Last year, Clementi committed suicide after finding out that his sexual encounter with another man was streamed over the internet. Now, police say his roommate put that video online.
All right, but the new law isn't without controversy. Critics say it goes way too far. It's difficult to enforce, etc. This morning, we're joined by Coach Randy Nathan, president of Project Next Gen. He's a life coach and motivational speaker who's worked with several New Jersey school districts to launch their anti-bullying programs. All right. Welcome, Randy. Let's start with tell us what this law is and what it entails.
It's an extremely comprehensive, very highly accountable law in terms of schools' requirements mandated as far as what they need to have in schools.
All right, so schools, if they find out that a child is bullying, what happens then?
According to the law, they have to report it to the principal directly by the end of the school day, and then they have 48 hours to put up a written report, which then gets passed over to the school anti-bullying specialist, who then has 10 days to do an investigation to decide whether or not it was bullying and reach out to figure out what's going on.
So a lot of requirements put on teachers, but also police are pulled into this. How exactly does that work?
In some situations, when it's deemed that it's appropriate, outside resources like police will have to be brought in because it's violence and things of that nature. And in particular, if it's cyberbullying, involves some kind of outside of the school situation.
And that's a huge distinction. This follows students outside of school.
Well, that's I think some of the downside to this side, or the difficulties of implementing this law, is that there's a lot of things today in terms of cyberbullying that takes place outside the school, but it gets reported to a teacher inside the school. They are now required to make some kind of effort to deal with it, even had nothing to do with being on school grounds.
This puts a lot of responsibility on the shoulders of not just teachers, but also police officers. Where are parents in all of this?
Well, parents are part of it, and the hard part about this law is that it's being implemented through the school system, but it has to be communicated somehow to parents, so parents need to know what's going on as well.
But my point is, parents need to be responsible for their own children. Teachers got enough stuff to worry about these days, just trying to get their kids' grades up and pass the tests and so forth. Cops got a lot of other things going on.
Sure.
Where is the responsibility that parents have in policing their own children?
Well, there's a lot of things that can go on in that way in terms of just values, in terms of what values need to come down from parents. So we need to develop partnerships, which is why some schools are like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. All the responsibilities fall on us. However, it's a community-wide issue. It's not just about the schools. It's about community centers. It's about local coaching and athletic schools, programs. It needs to be, it's an entire community issue. However, the law is focusing on the public schools because that's where kids spend most of their day each day.
Right. And all right, tell us, you've been working with school districts, helping them implement this. A lot of questions. What's the general reaction? I would imagine a lot of these districts feel overwhelmed.
Well, so they feel overwhelmed. However, the NJASA and the NJSBA have trained about 1,000 school professionals over the course of this past summer in terms of gearing up for it. So there is some semblance. We're doing some, I'm with an organization called Educational Information Resource Center, and we're developing some online modules to help get information out there so school professionals can understand. So there are things in place, but ultimately it's a very comprehensive, very extensive, time-consuming plan.
Some critics say that this opens up the school districts and potentially even individual teachers to lawsuits. What do you say to that?
Well, we're in a litigious community and society, so it doesn't matter where you go. You can go to the grocery store, there's always a lawsuit.
Right.
I think what we need to understand about this law, it's ultimately about prevention. And I think it's important because there are kids out there, 500,000 in our country, who go to school or choose not to go to school every day because of bullying. And I think ultimately that's what this law is really about, is protecting that one kid who's entering 8th grade, scared to death about going to school next Tuesday, and consider himself a chew toy. And knows the moment he walks in, it's all going to happen.
Do you think this is necessary?
I think it's necessary for somewhere for us to help kids get the help they need, whether you're gay, bisexual, nerdy, whatever it might be. Kids out there don't have a voice. Bystanders, 85% of the community are bystanders. They're not standing up to their friends. They're not standing up to what is right and to the values. And I think this, if anything, can find a way to help open up that dialogue to make it happen.
Do schools have the resources, though, to deal with this? I mean, it seems like this is going to be pretty time-consuming with all the reports that the teachers have to write.
It's only going to be appropriately implemented if schools make it a priority. And it needs to come from the top, which is why superintendents now are being held accountable in terms of reporting.
Priority for this, along with reading, writing, arithmetic,
and that's the hard part, being
standardized testing, right? All of that, sure. It's a lot indeed. All right, well, Randy Nathan from Project Next Gen, we appreciate you being with us this morning. You can read more about that law and also about Randy in the Seen on TV section of myfoxny.com.
A lot of teachers are going to have a lot of questions about that. Get ready, folks, because this thing starts today.
This week was declared the Week of Respect in New Jersey public schools. The initiative is designed to prevent bullying and help students avoid harassment and intimidation. It's part of New Jersey's new anti-bullying law. It is the toughest in the nation, and programs have been held in districts all across the Garden States. We have life coach Randy Nathan here, He was one of the people who spoke with kids. He joins us this morning. Randy, welcome back to Good Day New York.
Thank you. Good morning.
Tell us about the changes now with schools. Starting this school year, schools had to rethink and redo the way they handle bullying.
A lot of faculty administrators have gone through training through the New Jersey Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. Some dramatic changes in the school system as far as accountability. Big time changes.
All right, so if you're a parent and you feel like your kid's being bullied, what are the first steps you should do now?
First thing, you need to tell them and comfort them, let them know that's not acceptable behavior. It's not their fault. They don't deserve to be treated that way. Next thing is to go on the school's homepage and identify who their school specialist is, their anti-bully specialist or the district coordinator, and reach out to them immediately.
Now, that's one of the new parts of the law. They have to post this person, this information.
Every single school district has to have a posting on their homepage with the district coordinator's name and the school anti-bullying specialist name as well.
Now, you mentioned schools and accountability.
Definitely.
Is there a feeling that schools may now go overboard? As we've seen in incidents of school violence, now sometimes schools are overly cautious, suspending kids with, a pencil that's too sharp. Do you feel like that may happen now with bullying?
Well, I think what is great about this is raising awareness. And I think with that sensitivity comes a greater sense of awareness. It's likely that we've told educators and teachers to err and be overcautious. But ultimately, over the course of time, as you get familiar with this law, 6 to 9 months down the road, this really is about prevention and how we're going to help kids in the long run.
You know, there's definitely a stigma involved with being the victim of bullying. I still think kids would rather say, hey, I'm a bully, as opposed to I'm being bullied. How do you really change that? People want to be the tough one in a situation.
Well, I think that goes to our culture in particular, but we're changing the nomenclature a little bit from victim to target. We want to take away the victimization, that they're a target, and we need to empower them. But bullying is about an imbalance of power. It means that one side is picking on another. There's an imbalance of power, absolutely.
How do you really talk to kids about this? Because kids tune out very easily. They don't necessarily feel like adults understand them anyway. How do you really reach them when you go to talk?
Well, the K through 5 kids that I talk to, I talk about we're going to have a fun time, but we're talking about it's not funny. And I keep the message pretty basic, pretty simple in terms of various concepts. In middle school, it's a little bit more in their face. I would call the bystander bully program for kids in middle school and high school in terms of character and pride and those kind of pieces that kind of reach them in a different kind of common sense. But they don't really trust adults as much as they did in grade school. So you have to kind of break the ice quickly, let them know that you're a pretty good person and the message is worth listening to.
Yeah, what is bullying? How would you define it?
Well, it's defined many different ways, but ultimately bullying is imbalance of power. It's repeated, it's aggressive. I'm with the LVS Bully Prevention Program, and we talk about being repetitive, aggressive, and that there's a significant imbalance of power. And that's one way to define it. I know through the HIB program, as far as the law, it's about harassment, intimidation, and bullying. So it could be a one-time act, but it could be multiple acts.
All right. Well, Randy Nathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Also, life coach Randy Nathan, who's helped a number of New Jersey schools implement new anti-bullying policies. Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning.
What is your take? I'll start with you. What is your take on what's been going on here? Do you think it's fair that the students are not permitted to play?
Well, I think what's unfortunate is the whole handling of the situation from the very beginning, based on what happened back. It's been over a month, and to have strung it out this long is very unfortunate. So,
Peter, they're facing very serious charges. I almost think the focus is a little bit too much on football this weekend and not enough on the real serious problem they have.
Well, I'm not exactly sure what the problem is, because one of the larger problems is there's really been a lack of information. We don't know. We have 9 kids that were arrested who are suspended, who can't play. We don't know what they did. They're grouped together. Some reports have 2 of them with a solid alibi that they weren't even at the location. They were arrested over a week later. And if they miss this football game, and I understand, people are concerned, well, why are the accused being treated like the victims? But if you have 2, 3 kids or more, or all of them, who weren't even there or weren't involved, and you have kids that are missing this important day, I think before you can make that decision, you need more information.
But given the nature, this is a pretty serious crime. They're accused of beating someone very severely. Why not proceed with caution? Hey, they're just going to miss a game if at the end of the day, we're not talking criminal charges here, that the school is going to put forward. We're talking about missing a game.
I agree with you. The problem here has been there's an arrest in late October. In the beginning of November, the superintendent suspends them. Says he's not going to suspend them. They're allowed to play a game. Then he reverses himself and he suspends them. Then the board jumps in and says, you know what, we're going to stay that decision. They can play. They play a second game. Then they reverse themselves. So we've been all over the place here. Nobody seems to know what's going on, and that's really fueled this.
Do these football players, they have real, a shot at big-time college ball or something like that? Is this really disrupting to their future?
Well, it comes down to the fact there's certain ethical behaviors that are required. And whether they have a shot or not, you have a code of ethics and you have laws that are in place in terms of how you behave and how do you interact. And it's within a school district. Crosstown rivalries. I've been there for years. Kids are at a party. Kids come in to kind of want to be at there. And so 9 kids jump on 9, 5, 6, 4, whatever it is. There's 2 kids that are definitely hurt, 1 unconscious. And there needs to be some sense of accountability in the town.
You know what the problem really is from a legal standpoint? There's been no due process. There really hasn't. And these lawyers they've gone to court and they've said, we don't even know what our clients are alleged to have done. You suspended them, then you rescinded it, now you suspended them again. What'd they do? Can I know what my client did? Could you give me some ideas as to what he's accused of having done? So, that's what the problem has been with this process. There's been a lack of leadership here that has caused us to be in this position.
This attack occurred off campus.
Correct.
Are the laws changing so that it doesn't matter where things happen? We're implementing stricter anti-bullying laws.
Absolutely. In terms of the HIB policy, it's very clearly stated off school grounds. And even more so, this is a school district. And their 2 towns are within the school district. It's very clearly stated that it's on or off school grounds. And this is behavior, even in their code of conduct that comes off their website, even mentions the fact that anything that comes off school grounds.
Randy Nathan, you're the president of Project Next Gen.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And Peter Frankel, defense attorney. Nice to see you
Thanks
again.
for having me.